we have the convention coming in a few weeks. And so ever since we won the convention, we have been preparing in many different areas in many different ways, getting ready for it. And one of those areas has been in terms of security. Now, our people have visited every city that has put on a convention, I think over the last 12 years or so that we could get best practice and to see, what they have done. At the same time, so we're looking at, so we're looking at the best practices, but at the same time, we have had our own practical experiences and really some things that we've had to do here locally. So we're blending what we know works for Cleveland and what has happened in other places so that we can do what is the best thing to provide for a safe and secure convention. Now, with this, we make sure everybody's welcome to the city of Cleveland. We want to put on our best face and our best show so that because Cleveland will be seen all over the world. And we want you, however, to recognize that we are prepared and that we have done our due diligence in many different ways and that we have men and women here today to talk to you about that and what they have done in public safety to ensure, again, a safe and successful convention. So I'm Ed Eckert. Ed Eckert will be the one who will be like the master of ceremony of this, and he'll have different people come up at different times, okay? All right. Now, somebody took my seat. I think you're took my seat. Because it's going to be a long presentation.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Ed Eckhart. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Safety for the City of Cleveland. And my role in the RNC is to ensure that all of our divisions within the Department of Public Safety are collaborating and are making sure that all of the policies, the procedures, everything that's consistent among the Department of Public Safety divisions are managed in the correct way, as well as the grant, ensuring our compliance to the DOJ, BJA grant, and making sure that all of these briefings and things like this in terms of getting information out to people are being accomplished. Just a couple kind of housekeeping items before we get into our presentation. The information that we're going to share with you today is unclassified and non-law enforcement sensitive information. There's obviously a lot of very sensitive information that's part of our plan that we're not going to be able to share with you until after the event. So I just want everybody to be clear that the things that we'll be sharing with you today are high level and are intended to give you a good understanding of our preparedness, the amount of work that's gone into it, the leadership, the collaboration, the level of training, and all of the equipment that we're working to secure for the event. Secret Service Lead Agent Rowe was not able to be with us this morning. Actually, he is in the middle of preparing a tabletop exercise for us in the next 24 hours. We wanted to try and get him away so that the exercise might be a little easier for us tomorrow, but he wouldn't bite. So he can't be with us this morning. What our goal is today is to provide you an overview from each one of the chiefs and commissioners of the divisions of the Department of Public Safety, to give you an overview of their planning process, the training that they've done, the resources that they've engaged, and as well as all of the equipment that they're purchasing, to give you a sense that Cleveland really is prepared, we're on track, and really our goal at the end of all of this is that when people from other cities look to gather one of these events in their community, 4 years from now or 2 years from now, they say, we need to go to Cleveland because Cleveland did it right. What you see here is our leadership team. I'm going to steal the Cavaliers phrase right now, all in. The city of Cleveland, under the direction of Mayor Jackson, really has been all in. Going back several years in wooing the convention here, and since we've been awarded the convention, everybody within the leadership team at City Hall has been fully engaged. This is just a snapshot of the safety team. With the addition of Valerie McCall, who you all know, who is the mayor's chief of governmental and international affairs, as well as Rick Horvath, who is the chief's corporate counsel. They've really been our two main partners from public safety in helping us plan for the convention, securing a lot of the agreements, and working with us on the collaboration. At this point, I'm going to ask Director Mike McGrath to come up and just give you an overview of what a National Special Security event is, what his duties and responsibility are as it pertains to the grant and the procurement of services and commodities related to that grant, and then we'll start to roll into the actual presentations from each one of our divisions. Director?
Thanks, Ed. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to give you a general overview of the NSSE grant, but I want you to remember three words as we go through this process today, this presentation, and they're very important words, and this is what we start with: preparation, communication, and intelligence. Very important, and as we proceed through this, you'll see how they all tie together. Now, the National Republican Convention has been designated a national special security event. What does this mean? This means that we partner with the Department of Justice, per se the Secret Service is the lead agency, to develop a security plan, a security network to provide a safe convention. This starts with the Executive Steering Committee, which has 20 members in that committee. And if we, Valerie, if I could have the screen up here, it makes it so much easier to, this is the city's organizational chart that partners with the Executive Steering Committee. And as I proceed, you'll have a clear understanding. But this is our safety organizational chart that you just saw there. Okay, like I said, Cleveland has been designated an SSE event, which means we partner with the Department of Justice, which is per se the lead agency is the Secret Service. The first thing that we do is, or they do, is they develop the Executive Steering Committee. And Ron Rowe is the special agent in charge. He's the coordinator. This committee is made up of 23 subcommittees. Now, if you look at these subcommittees, what you're going to see is you're going to see the one, for example, criminal infrastructure protection, critical infrastructure protection, counter-surveillance I-teams. Counter-surveillance I-teams, for example, the lead agency there is the FBI. Airport is the FAA. Airspace, FAA. Maritime, United States Coast Guard. So basically what I'm trying to relate is that it's just not the Cleveland Police Department providing security for this event. It's a partnership with the Department of Justice, the lead agency being the Secret Service. Now, these particular NSSE events, there's a handful of them across this country. There's maybe 6 to 10 per year. The last couple events were the papal visit to Washington, New York, and Philadelphia. We also had the nuclear summit, which just took place in Washington. And the nuclear summit, they had quite a few protesters there. In fact, we had a team go up there to observe that particular network security that was in place there. But what's also important to understand from the Department of Justice perspective and our perspective is that those individuals that provided the security network for the papal visit, for the nuclear summit, are the same people that are coming to Cleveland. And they're coming here with that experience. So this isn't a one-time thing for us. Well, for us it is, for as far as the convention goes, being designated an NSE event. But for them, it's not. And they will be our partners, the chief's partners, because the chief oversees the lead law enforcement agency in Northeast Ohio. So it's a network that's in place, has been in place. We started this process approximately 12 months ago. and we're proceeding along. And from my perspective, because my responsibility in this whole thing as far as the grant goes, because with the designation of the NSSE event, there's also funding. There's a $50 million grant that comes in the city. It's for procuring equipment. It's also used to bring additional resources as far as police officers to the city of Cleveland. All that responsibility falls on my office to ensure that the money's spent properly, it's accounted for, and when the event is over, when the Department of Justice comes here to, or the BJA comes here to audit us, that everything's in order, and we can tell them where the equipment went, how we spent the money on the law enforcement officers, et cetera. So there's a tremendous amount of responsibility there as far as just the logistics of accounting for the money. And that's not to stress the importance of securing the event. So just to wrap it up real quick, and I'll turn it over to Assistant Director Eckhart. We'll go through the process. This is what we start with, the Executive Steering Committee, which is headed by the Secret Service. It's broken down into 23 different subcommittees, which we have representation on, and so do the federal agencies. And as we proceed, all these subcommittees, they respond back up to the Executive Steering Committee as far as what their plans are to ensure that the security network is in place. If there's any disagreements, they're settled at the Executive Steering Committee level. So with that said, I'm going to turn the podium back over to Assistant Director Eckhart, and we'll proceed with the city's presentation on how we fit into this particular organizational chart. Thank you.
As we're going through our presentation, I really want and I really hope that you all get the sense that this is what our strengths are. This is what the City of Cleveland, this is what all of the leaders that are standing in front of you really bring to the table here. We had to do another presentation about a week or so ago to insurance underwriters, and as I was listening to them give their presentations, I was struck by two things. One, the level of knowledge, experience, and dedication that each one of these men and women have to this community. They all grew up here. They raised their families here. Community is extremely important to them. Secondly, just in the level of experience, over 300 years of collective subject matter expertise in our leadership team in the Department of Public Safety. Secondly is the level of collaboration that you're going to see with our federal partners, our state partners, our local partners here. And these partnerships just didn't start in the last 18 months. These are long-standing partnerships that have been embedded within the Department of Public Safety for a long time. This event really allowed us to not start the partnerships, but really enhance them and take them to another level. Then when we give you an overview of the training, I think you're going to be blown away by the amount of hours that our personnel have received in training. And again, not just in the last 6 months, going back 4, 5, 10 years. It's not that all of a sudden because we got awarded the RNC, all of these classes just popped up. These are classes that have been ongoing and that help us be prepared day in and day out. And then lastly, the equipment. Being able to utilize commodities and services to provide the level of service under the leadership, the direction, the collaboration, and the training makes it all come together. So at this point, I would like to ask Chief Calvin Williams to come up, and he will start the law enforcement overview, and then he will be joined shortly thereafter by Deputy Chief Tamba. Chief?
Thanks, Director. Well, good morning. Director Eckhart kind of set the stage, along with the mayor and the safety director. We are in the process of finalizing all of our security planning for the convention. This isn't a process that started 6 months ago or 8 months ago. This started a long time ago, started almost a year ago. Once we got into the process of securing the convention, we knew that we couldn't wait until we were actually awarded a convention to start preparing for it. So we started then. Deputy Chief Ed Tamba, who's going to come up after me, was integral in all of the preparation and securing the convention and all of the delegate experience that we put on for the Committee on Arrangements that came and talked to us and went around our city and talked to our partners and probably talked to a lot of you. And from that point almost a year ago, I had decided that Ed Tomba would be our lead for the Division of Police in not only providing the law enforcement security part of this, but making sure everything else was in place for this convention. Assistant Director Eckhart talked a lot about our system here and what we've been through in this city, not just over the last couple of years, but probably over the last decade, and how that the people that you see here represent Cleveland. You know, I've been in law enforcement in the city for 30 years, and you'll hear from each individual here. They've been here, you know, along the same line. Most, if not all, I think we have a couple exceptions, are lifelong Clevelanders who still live in this city, who still know that this city is going along the path of being a great city again. And I think we're really close to that. You'll hear from these individuals that will tell you that there is nothing more challenging than a convention, but there's nothing at the end, I think, that's going to be more rewarding and more beneficial, not just to this city, but to the divisions represented here, to the people that you don't see here that are working hard day in and day out to make sure we're successful here. This is going to be great for the city, and the people you see here are the people that are putting this together. So I just want to leave you with a couple things. The director, the mayor, and the safety director talk about partnerships, and we can't do this without our partners. You know, a lot of the focus has been put on the Division of Police, and are we prepared for this convention in less than, I think we're at about 45 days now, 46 days. We are prepared, but that, again, does not happen overnight, and it does not happen without a lot of great partners, not just in the city that you see here, but in the state, in the county, and around this country. A lot of emphasis has been placed on the number of officers that the division is going to have to help it with those outer zones and with the rest of the city. Well, there are thousands of people on the state and the federal level, the county level, that aren't even counted in our plan that are going to be here to help secure this convention. So we are prepared. We are ready. And our partners are out there prepared and ready. There are going to be officers and individuals and things that you will never see, but they'll be here making sure this city is safe. And people have to remember that. And people also have to remember that the experience you see here, it didn't happen overnight. These people have dedicated their lives to the city, to making it safe, and this is just one more event that we're tasked with handling, that we will handle. But it won't be the last. It won't be the last. You know, people ask me all the time, Chief, I know you'll be glad when July 22nd comes and people are out of here and out of your hair. You know what? It'll be rewarding that we get through this convention, that we do it the right way, that we're successful, but I know there's something else down the road. It won't be the end. So probably, hopefully around December, next January, we'll be planning for the next big event for this city. And that's how I look at it, day in and day out. This won't be the last for the city of Cleveland. So with that, I'm going to bring up Deputy Chief Edward Tomba, and he's going to go in detail about our security preparations. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Well said. As always, good morning, everybody. Just a couple of quick comments before I get into the presentation. During the next 46 days, the city of Cleveland is going to host the Calder Cup Finals, the NBA Finals, and several Major League Baseball games. The world-class Hilton Hotel is going to open. The gem in the center of our city, Public Square, will be rededicated. The Division of Police will graduate a new class of police officers. Summer has arrived in our city. Numerous neighborhood events and festivals will showcase everything in our great city. We bid for and we won the honor of hosting the 2016 Republican National Convention, and that victory will place us in the international spotlight. These are all positive accomplishments, and that's what my presentation is going to focus on today. Everything that's positive that's going on in our city. As the chief said, I was selected to be the lead law enforcement planning officer for the Division of Police, and I consider this assignment a great honor and a highlight of my 31-year career as a law enforcement officer in the city and a lifelong city resident. So that's the way I'm looking at this. That's the way I want everybody else to look at it. Earlier we met, and a member of the media asked the mayor, "Mayor, what can we do?" And the mayor said, "Report the event as it unfolds. Be positive." We are not looking at this as a negative. This is a positive for our city, and we're going to showcase all that our city has to offer. We will be prepared, we are prepared, and we are trained. So with that said, I'm going to get into a presentation of what we've been doing the last 12 months and try to address any issues or any concerns that anybody has. The lead agency for the secure zone is the United States Secret Service, and they are collaborating on the design and the implementation. That has been a question that's been out there a lot. Where is that hard zone? That has not been determined yet. That will not be released. Publicly, the Secret Service says if you can see Quicken Loans Arena and throw a baseball at it, you're probably going to be in that secure zone. So I think everyone will have a pretty good idea where, where that hard zone is going to be. They are responsible for all the dignitary protection. They will coordinate that. All of the state trooper agencies are responsible to protect their governors that'll be in town. Chief Williams is the lead law enforcement officer. He'll be part of that unified command, and I will be the operations chief for the convention, and I will be responsible for all the law enforcement resources outside of that hard zone and throughout the city. The director touched on this very quickly. We're all part of this. We sit in the middle of the executive steering committee, and we make all the decisions, and all these subcommittees report up to the executive steering committee, and they get our approval on the plans, and then we move forward with those plans. We have collaborated, you're going to hear that a lot, with our law enforcement partners, and we have developed plans to prevent and mitigate any disruption by way of a balanced and proportional response continuum. So what I want to add to that is our law enforcement posture. This is in our operational plan. A lot of things that we're saying today are not, they're unclassified, but our law enforcement posture is the following. What you're going to see in the city of Cleveland from law enforcement is you're going to see officers on foot patrol, and they're going to be in their Class B uniforms, which are short sleeve shirts, slacks, and their hat. You're going to see officers on bicycles. Those officers on bicycles are going to have shorts on, they're going to have polo shirts, they're going to have their helmets on. Then you're going to see officers on mounted patrol. Obviously, what's going to happen there, they're going to be patrolling on horses. We have contracted with outside law enforcement agencies to assist us with the mounted unit. You're going to see officers on motorcycles. That is our posture. Our posture is one of community policing, community engagement. Our job is to get people from point A to point B. Our job is to keep commerce moving and to keep the public safe and to make sure everybody that comes into the city has a positive experience and they're kept safe. So that's what you're going to see. What you won't see is any military-style equipment. You won't see officers in personal protective gear unless the situation dictates that they put on that gear and be in that personal protective gear. That's what it is. It's protection against something that is going on, and it's protection for our officers. But I can tell you that we will not be standing around with that personal protective gear on at all. It's going to be a different approach. During the planning process, I asked my counterparts across the country, I know what you did right. Tell me what you did wrong or what you would do over if you could do it over again. And that was one of the things that they said. Chief, more bicycle officers, more foot patrols, more community engagement. So that's where that's our plan, and that's going to be our posture. We're going to manage and track our security operations using the National Incident Management Model. And that model is a national model that allows for multiple agencies and multiple jurisdictions to all work together, all under one common operating picture. Excuse me, Chief. This is the unified command. This will be Chief Williams and the other chiefs of the Division of Public Safety, and they're going to be all together in one room, and they're going to be running the operations. So if I need something from the Division of Fire or the Division of EMS, I can go right to the chief. He's standing there right next to the chief of fire, or the commissioner of EMS, and we can get those resources. The FBI, intelligence, and crisis management, we do have officers assigned to that subcommittee and on that task force, but the FBI is the lead agency. The FEMA, Federal Emergency Management, consequence management, and they have played a significant role in all of the training that they've conducted in the city. We had about 16 or 17 classes that FEMA has put on for us with 50 officers in those classes. I have personally went to every one of those classes and spoke to the men and women of the Division of Police at the request of Chief Williams, and exactly what I'm telling you is exactly what I told them. We're not going to stand for any lawlessness. If someone breaks the law, we're going to take swift, appropriate, and constitutional action to mitigate that. But we're not going to stand for that. Anybody that wants to come into the city and let their voice be heard in a lawful manner, we're here to assist them. But anybody that goes sideways and is not following the law, there's going to be consequences, and we're going to deal with them, but it's going to be swift and it's going to be very professional. I can assure you of that. We have intelligence assets. Through the Secret Service, they set up these different intelligence teams, and they all have different missions. Obviously, some of them are self-explanatory. They can explain themselves by their names. The PIC teams, Protective Intelligence, those are the teams that are in charge of all the protectees, the governors, the senators, the congressmen, and the protectee, the candidate, when he and his vice presidential candidate come to town. The 17th is the welcoming event, which takes place on our North Coast Harbor, and we have a partnership with all these agencies here for water resources, and there'll be a temporary flight restriction. As you can imagine, Burke Airport's going to be very busy, so the federal government is going to put a temporary flight restriction controlled by the FAA. I discussed this a little bit earlier, but like I said, I know it's been out there quite a bit, so it can't be said enough. I've been saying it and I've been preaching it to all the men and women of the division, all the law enforcement agencies that are coming in from around the country. Everybody's on board with it. You know, they like our plan. They know we're prepared. They know we're going to be ready to go once the convention starts. Body-worn cameras, excuse me. It's been a big question lately. If you're on the bike, if you're walking, if you're in a Class B uniform, you're going to be wearing your body-worn camera. If you have to put on your personal protective gear, there is no place for that camera to be worn. You will not be required to wear your city-issued body-worn camera. In an effort to mitigate that, in an effort to have some redundancy, we have established a video unit, and with all the media outlets and everybody with a cell phone, I'm very, very confident that any issue or interaction with law enforcement, we're going to have a documented record of it. That is our video unit's responsibility. If an incident occurs, they are to get to that location. They're going to be assigned to these different units, and they're going to go and they're going to take a video record of that, so we have it. What's that? Oh, I'm leaving the mic, so all right. So that's it. That's it for me, for my overview, and I'm going to turn it back over to the director, Director Eckert, and he's going to bring up the next speaker for presentation.
The Division of Police and all of our law enforcement partners, whether it be federal, state, and local, are all on the same page singing from the same hymnal as it relates to being a total open book in recording all of the activities that go on out in the community during this event. So the Division of Police took the lead in a strong leadership position in identifying and establishing this video unit. They will be out recording everything that can't be recorded by body-worn cameras. Full disclosure, we want to be an open book for any questions, any concerns that anybody has. We want to be able to document everything. That was a big leadership step by the chief and deputy chief to ensure that we had all of those areas covered. At this point, I'd like to ask Commissioner Carroll and Jail Manager Scafidi to come up and provide their overview of arrest and detention.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Carroll. I'm Acting Commissioner for the Division of Correction. I'm a 28-year veteran of the Cleveland Division of Police, born and raised in the city of Cleveland. To my right is Jail Manager Lisa Scafidi. She is responsible for one of our jail locations, and I'll get into that as I begin my presentation. As you've heard the mayor, the director, and the chief state, the Division of Correction has also been preparing for this event for the past year, planning, meeting with our jail partners, contracting with some different agencies. We'll get into that also with the presentation. So to start off, the Division of Correction is responsible for the booking, housing, and processing of anybody arrested in the city of Cleveland. We do this on a daily basis. This will be business as usual, so to speak, during the RNC event, possibly at a larger scale. But like I said, we're prepared for this. The Division of Correction books in over 23,000 people a year, so we're used to some larger numbers here. The Division of Correction has approximately 130 employees, which consist of correction officers, correctional supervisors, cooks, caseworkers, some administrative staff, and they'll all be a part of, and they have been a part of the planning and training that we're doing internally for this event. Our division operates several different jail facilities. The House of Correction we refer to as the HOC out in Highland Hills. The Central Prison Unit, which is downtown, we refer to as CPU. And we also have some district jail facilities that we utilize for overflow, and we'll utilize those districts if we need to for this event. On top of, or part of our planning and what we've been doing over the past year, we're contracting with Cuyahoga County Jail for additional housing space in the event that that's needed. They'll also provide 24/7 booking and processing to help us out with that end of it. We're also contracting with the Geauga County Jail for additional beds if that's needed. And we're also in talks with some of the state jail facilities to have some additional space if it's needed. Currently, we contract with First Choice Medical for in-house medical care, and that will continue. We are going to add some additional hours, so we have 24-hour coverage for inmate medical care in-house during the RNC. And we have met with what I refer to as our jail partners. That consists of the Cleveland Municipal Courts, the Cleveland Prosecutor's Office, the county courts, the county prosecutor's office, the clerk of courts, the bailiffs, and those types of people that are all involved from the time somebody gets booked into their first court appearance. We have put our plan together. We will hold as many court dockets as needed in the event that large number of arrests are coming through our facility to ensure that people are making their initial court appearance as required by law. We also provide those items that we're required to provide by state jail standards, obviously feeding, medical, phone calls, all of those types of things, and that will continue with this event. Nothing will change there. You heard me say, and I'll repeat, this is kind of business as usual for us. This is something that we're used to as far as booking people in. I am 100% confident that the Division of Correction is prepared for any challenges that come our way during this event. We continue to meet with our partners, and we'll continue to do that through the RNC event and sit down afterwards and see how everything went.
I think one of the things the commissioner, and it's important to, from his perspective, through his leadership, he has conducted several tabletop exercises with our local partners, our county partners, in actually walking through the processing of detainees and how all of that's going to work. So this isn't a theoretical, philosophical approach from the Division of Corrections. It's a theoretical approach where they're physically handing prisoners off to one another, making sure that the chain of custody, the paperwork, all of those things are being done and that we're compliant with the U.S. Constitution. Those kind of things may seem to be trivial, but in a scenario like this where there's a potential for larger volumes than usual, it's important to make sure that each one of the partners in that process are actively engaged and have a voice in that process. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Carlton to come up, and she'll give an overview on the first aid and medical coverage.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Director. My name is Nicole Carlton. I'm Commissioner for the Division of Emergency Medical Service. I've been with the Division of EMS since 1993, and I've lived actually in the city of Cleveland for over 26 years, and I currently reside in Cleveland. Cleveland is home to me, and looking at the medical coverage for this event, I wanted to make sure that anybody coming into this city is as comfortable with the medical care provided by EMS and our area hospitals as I am. The Division of EMS handles over 115,000 calls on an annual basis, and we are staffed with 18 ambulances, transporting over 74,000 patients to area hospitals. Our mission for this event was actually to provide medical coverage for anybody coming in for the RNC and anybody here for actually any of the special events related to the RNC. As we worked with people who have hosted these events, we looked at the city of Cleveland and how blessed we are to have a plethora of hospitals and wonderful hospital partners that we have worked with for many decades. Some of the other cities were a little bit challenged as it came to having the hospital partners that the city of Cleveland has. The city of Cleveland, for EMS, we've partnered with these hospitals to provide unprecedented medical coverage, as well as private ambulance companies, to ensure that the neighborhoods are staffed fully with the ambulances for the Division of EMS, and that the local private ambulance companies will assist us with transporting patients to area hospitals. The welcome event will be staffed by one of the area hospitals. They'll have medical providers capable of handling moderate illness and injuries, and they will include an independent licensed provider, and that is somebody who can actually operate independently and make medical decisions. Cleveland EMS will utilize mobile units to actually respond to medical emergencies during the event and then care for them in the medical treatment tents. Inside the hard perimeter, one of the area hospitals will also provide medical treatment in first aid and treatment rooms. Staffing in these areas as well will include an independent medical licensed provider and medical support teams. There will be mobile teams that will be on foot going throughout the hardened area inside the perimeter to ensure that anybody suffering from a medical emergency can have immediate treatment and then transport them to the medical treatment area if needed. There will be mobile medical teams assigned to other areas of the convention center area. There will be checkpoints, and there will be medical coverage provided by another medical partner at the first aid treatment tents. They will once again include an independent licensed provider and a medical support team. There will be ALS ambulances staged so that we can actually transport somebody to the hospital immediately in the cases of extremis, and that is somebody who has immediate life-threatening injuries and need to be transported to an area hospital. As we built out our plan, what we wanted to do was not overflow the emergency departments within the city of Cleveland, so we wanted to provide as much care as we can at the first aid medical treatment areas so that we weren't overburdening the area hospitals. For the media filing center, one of the area hospitals will be providing medical treatment rooms, and once again, the independent licensed provider with the medical support team. There will be mobile foot teams in the convention center itself where they can immediately respond and provide life-threatening treatments and take them back to the treatment area if needed. There will be an ALS ambulance to transport out of the media center in the event of somebody is an extremis and needs immediate medical care. I just want to touch briefly on the independent licensed provider and why that is so important is that they can make decisions on their own and provide that care right there in the medical treatment area for anybody who is suffering from a minor to a medium type of injury where we can provide the care there without, once again, taking them to the area hospitals. Within the downtown footprint itself, Cleveland EMS will utilize mobile units where we can respond to medical emergencies in the hard perimeter as well as in the downtown footprint itself. Cleveland EMS is able to provide immediate assessment and treatment if needed and then take people back to the medical treatment areas, and if necessary, we'll transport people to area hospitals. For downtown, EMS once again will have multiple mobile response teams where we can maneuver in the downtown footprint easier than a large ambulance. We'll be able to provide immediate assessment transport people to medical treatment facilities if needed, and then we'll also utilize the private ambulance companies to transport patients to emergency departments in the area if needed. There will be an area that will be designated outside the secured perimeter as a first aid medical treatment area for those persons associated with RNC events in the downtown footprint. Once again, the goal is to provide care at those areas without transporting them to the emergency departments. The hospitals will staff medical providers capable of making independent decisions, and Cleveland EMS will provide medical support to those treatment areas with an ALS team. We'll also have fire hydrants that we will open, not me, Division of Fire will open, service spray basins for the cooling as well as water buffaloes for hydration, because as many of you are aware, July in the city of Cleveland can be hot and humid, and the goal is to keep people from going and being sick and heat exhaustion, so we want to take care of them and have them pre-hydrate and have cooling areas for them. One of the big areas that we noticed was that law enforcement support is a huge aspect of what we are going to do. With the number of law enforcement officers that will be here for the event, we want to make sure that they are medically cared for and that anything that we can do to support them, we did during this event, and that was a big part of our planning. We will have medical support teams that will be combined with police and that they will work under the direction of law enforcement, so they will be staged in the downtown footprint. And they basically will not have an outward presence, but they will come out at the request of law enforcement to assist somebody with a medical need. We'll also have set locations for rehabilitation and assessment and treatment for any of the law enforcement officers who are having medical issues. The main areas for treating law enforcement officers was a collaboration with the Department of Health and Human Services, and we'll have federal medical task force teams that will be strategically located in the downtown area. Their goal is to actually bring in their tents. They have medical doctors and staff that they can actually treat lengthier illnesses and injuries with the law enforcement rather than taking them to the hospitals. But once again, if somebody needs transport to a hospital, we will take them via the private ambulance. The goal of the private ambulance, once again, was not to take from our neighborhoods, so this event itself will be contained. My staff will be working exclusively for this event, as well as the private ambulance companies. At the law enforcement housing areas, we realize that as law enforcement officers are waking up or coming off shift, they may realize that they have some type of minor medical injury or illness that needs to be cared for. Our local hospitals are actually assisting us in having independent licensed providers at these areas where they can treat them and care for them on site, and if needed, once again, we can transport them to an area hospital if needed. We also had to worry about our four-legged friends, not just our two. So for our canine and our horse teams, we're actually working with the National Veterinary Response Teams, and they are a part of HHS. They will have a tent in the area to care for the horses, and for our working dogs, they will actually have mobile teams to assist with the working dogs, which there will be a lot of them. There we go. Thank you.
Something to underscore on the EMS side, when the commissioner and her staff talk to other cities that have had conventions, one of the things they learned pretty quickly is that the hospital systems there were really more concerned about their own internal capacity issues and focused a lot on maintaining their operations. And so the pre-hospital community in those other cities did not have a whole lot of resource help from the local health systems. I think we're really blessed here in the city of Cleveland that, number one, we have a lot of world-renowned systems, but number two, they are willing to step up, collaborate, and provide resources. And as you could tell from Commissioner Carlton's plan, a lot of that did come from our healthcare partners. Now I'd like to ask Chief Angelo Cavillo to come up and provide the Division of Fire overview.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Fire Chief Angelo Cavillo, Cleveland Fire Department. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm all in, just like everyone else here. With our safety forces and the members here, the mayor's office and everyone, we are the professionals. We are the subject matter experts. I would match us up against anyone nationally, locally. We are that good. I am from Cleveland. A little history about myself. Born and raised in Cleveland, 53 years. Me and my wife still live in Cleveland. We've got 3 grown children, all doing well. My 2 sons went to Cleveland Benedictine High School. We love this city, and we've got a lot of pride for this city. A little history about myself as far as experience on this job. I've been on this job for 27 years in many capacities. I've been a director of training through 6 academies. That's almost 80% of our fire division as far as training in EMT training, physical training, fire operations, ladder operations, everything. I've been involved with it all. I'm also part of the Regional County Type 1 Hazmat team. I've been a suppression battalion chief, captain, and lieutenant, and also functioning paramedic since 1996. I've worked structure fires all the way up to the biggest ones, the special 5-alarm fires. I've worked as a paramedic. I've worked everything from full arrest to gunshots to overdoses. I've seen everything and prepared myself for this very moment. I've also been involved in the Fire Prevention Bureau as a captain. I also have some history and training as a captain and lieutenant in the hazmat unit of the Cleveland Fire Department. And I oversee approximately 750 members of this fire division along with administration. I started off with the first Joint Hazardous Assessment Team a couple years back when it was brought to Cleveland, and it was an honor and pleasure to be involved with the FBI and our safety forces in regards to the Joint Hazardous Assessment Team. Boots on the ground being involved, and it was an honor and a pleasure. As far as relevant courses and my background to prepare myself to the position I'm in right now, I've been involved with training at the hazmat tech level for chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive in Nevada. Incident response to terrorist bombing, suicide bombing in New Mexico. Weapons of mass destruction in Anniston, Alabama. National Fire Academy Executive Leadership. Enhanced Incident Management, College Station, Texas, going over tabletop just like these scenarios where, God forbid, if we have any incident, we'll mitigate it and we'll take care of it. I've also been trained at the Ohio Emergency Management Agency Emergency Operations Center, the EOC of the state of Ohio. So that's a little history about myself, and now I want to go into the PowerPoint presentation for the RNC. The Cleveland Division of Fire is primarily responsible for all fire, life safety, tech rescue, hazardous material recognition, and decontamination at all RNC venues, including the overall event footprint. Now keep in mind, we've got 3 24-hour shifts that are going to be running real time, taking care of our citizens and visitors of Cleveland. In addition to that, the off-duty members will be handling the hard zone and soft zone. So we're going to handle it. We're going to take care of it as business as usual. The Division of Fire will staff an all-hazards management center to dispatch, track, and relay information to the Joint Hazardous Assessment Team in collaboration with the Secret Service, FBI, and DOE. The Division of Fire will staff the hard perimeter with a battalion chief as an incident commander, hazmat vehicle and decontamination, fire suppression resources, mobile decontamination team. The beautiful thing about this is those members, those individuals, those resources will be there real time to mitigate any situation. The Division of Fire will staff the soft perimeter with a battalion chief as an incident commander, fire suppression resources, hazardous response team, multiple mobile decontamination teams. Once again, it's all about real time, that flex time of being on scene to mitigate a situation. The Division of Fire Prevention is conducting pre-incident building inspections and special permit inspections to ensure compliance to state and local ordinances. Each venue designated as RNC facilities will be staffed with life safety inspectors to monitor crowds, conditions, fire suppression systems. In the event of an incident, they will coordinate crowd management and evacuations. The Division of Fire is staffing extrication teams for the purpose of extricating individuals from restraint devices designed to cause civil unrest and disruption. Field force extrication teams will support the law enforcement and deploy at the direction of the law enforcement commanders. It's all about unified command. Cleveland Police, Cleveland Fire, EMS, everyone working together, along with the other resources. And finally, the technical rescue companies will be deployed to mitigate structural collapse, trench collapse, high-angle rescue, confined space rescue, and other specialty situations. Thank you very much.
Chief Cavillo and his staff have been regularly, as DC Tamba and Commissioner Carlton, been regularly meeting with the other county police and fire chiefs just to make sure that they're on the same page with their operational plans to ensure that in the event that those additional resources are needed from around the county, or we would need to go out and support something that may happen in one of the other jurisdictions, that those communications are there and those plans are there and everybody is on the same page. I would like to ask Brad Hankey, who is our manager of the Office of Radio Communications, to provide you an overview of our communications plan.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Brad Hankey. I've been working with the Office of Radio Communications for the City of Cleveland for over 17 years. In that amount of time, I've seen a lot of events and planned a lot of events for the City of Cleveland, some of them including the International Children's Games and the International Gay Games, and of course the Cavs Finals in 2011 and now 2016. With that being said, of course, I don't have a whole lot of information I can share as far as what systems and what we're doing, but I can tell you this: we're prepared. We have a communications plan in place. That plan has been worked on for probably over a year now, and changing daily, fluidly. As you can imagine, we're dealing with the federal, state, and local agencies and other partners that are coming in. I'm going to be serving as the COML for this event. COML is in the national, in our NIMS compliance process. What we're doing is the COML serves as the person that does all the communications for the City of Cleveland and for all the outside agencies. So we'll be coordinating what agencies talk on what talk groups, what agencies use what frequencies, and that works all the way down to dealing with the media and what you guys use for your wireless mics and things to that effect. We'll be using 3 systems during this event for communications, all of which will be redundant and backed up to each other. So we're going to have, if all systems should fail, that's one of the questions we get asked a lot. If all systems should fail, what do we do? Our radios are all programmed with individual frequencies that allow us to be able to talk radio to radio and direct to each other. As you can imagine, cell phones will be deployed to all our supervisory and management personnel. Also to our mission critical support resources, like our hospitals and things like that, so that they can communicate if something should happen. One of the other things that we're looking into and employing here is our government GETS cards, or the Government Emergency Telecommunications Services. What that allows us to do is have a priority over phone lines so that you can still communicate. It gets us in before other people. And that's all I got.
I think what's important, and Brad takes this stuff for granted because that's what he does every day, but the City of Cleveland, we've got a backup factor times 4. In the event that we had any kind of problems with any one of our systems, we've got a backup to the backup to the backup to the backup, if you count the cell phones and the GET service. So obviously communication is very important. Brad and his people do a fantastic job, and we're very confident in his leadership. Now I'd like to ask Mr. Alex Pelham. Alex is our manager of our Emergency Operations Center, to come and provide an overview of his area.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. First off, my name is Alex Pelham. I'm the Emergency Operations Center Manager. I've been with the City of Cleveland for 1 year. I came here last June. For the previous 7 years, I was in Jacksonville, Florida. Yes, I am the second person outside of LeBron James to move from Florida to Ohio. And much like Mr. James, I anticipate a very eventful and very fruitful next month or two. With that, during my time in Jacksonville, I served in a similar role, and we planned, prepared, and operated the Operations Center for both natural disasters and human-caused disasters. Those natural disasters and special events include tornadoes, hurricanes, freshwater flooding, wildfires, as well as some of our human-caused, which are active shooter, missing children, and the high-profile court cases that affected Northeast Florida in the past 2 years. In 2014, I was honored by the National Homeland Security Association for Excellence in Emergency Management, and I'm very happy to be here. What is an Emergency Operations Center? I know that's a question a lot of people ask. It is a central location at which all of the divisions and all of the leadership and knowledge you saw present before me, we come together to have one voice to provide situational awareness to all of our decision makers so that we can make the most effective, efficient, and justifiable decisions moving forward for the operations at hand. We also will serve as a critical link to all of the acronyms you see here, the MAC, the Multi-Agency Coordination Center, which is hosted by the Secret Service, our Joint Operations Center, the Intelligence Operations Center, as well as our great partners with Cuyahoga County Emergency Management, as well as the State of Ohio Emergency Management. The EOC will serve as the clearinghouse for all of the resources, operation, and services. This is a very important piece because with the scope and the complexity of the event that we'll have this summer, we need to be able to be on one page, whether it be resource allocation, communications, resource requests, or sheer personnel distribution. As Director McGrath mentioned earlier, this will be accomplished through the area command function of the Incident Command System, a national best practice that's used throughout the world. The EOC will be operational starting on July 15th at 0600, which is 6 a.m., and we will function 24 hours a day throughout the duration of the incident as determined by Chief Calvin Williams and the rest of Unified Command. We will also have a Joint Information Center at the EOC. This Joint Information Center, in collaboration with the Secret Service's Joint Information Center, will ensure that the communications coming out of the City of Cleveland speaks in one voice, it's accurate, it's timely, and we don't present any conflicting information to our community or our residents moving forward. The EOC will produce two different documents. One will be internal, or they'll both be internal, that will provide our stakeholders different things. The first is an incident action plan. This is a game plan. I'm a sports fan, so what I like to give analogies. This is the game capsule preview. You know who's working, you know how they're working, you know how to communicate with them. We have a safety plan because, as everyone in this room knows, the safety of our first responders and our residents and our event guests is number one in our priority. It will also include weather outlooks, maps, and other events. This will be done once each operational period, those 12-hour periods, and will be distributed to our workforce. The second is a situational report. This is much like a box score. This will look at a certain time period, and it will let our decision makers, all of our partners, whether it be at the state, the county, the federal, or local, what has happened in the last couple of hours, as well as pictures or any information that needs to be pushed out. Why is the EOC a maximizing facility of how we can do things? One is we have an advanced camera system throughout the city of Cleveland. Our law enforcement partners, as well as our other partners, will be able to monitor said cameras in order to make justifiable decisions and decisions with all the facts. We also have the availability with our out-of-town partners, whether it be state, local, federal, to push their cameras through our system to where they can also see them. We have a video wall. What this video wall does is, while we have day-to-day activities that may be very confined in a space or site restriction, we anticipate that this scope of operations will be larger than most anything else we've dealt with. Therefore, the availability to have up to 80 sources on the computer, on the screen at once, provides our decision makers and our resource allocators an enhanced level of knowledge as they move forward. The third is Knowledge Center. This is a web-based software that allows our partners, no matter where they are, to keep track of what's going on, as well as to share information pertinent to the operation. The fourth is video conferencing. In the event that we need to push out information to our partners or have a sit-down with someone who may be in Columbus, someone who may be in Washington, D.C., we also have the capability in 3 of our rooms to do that. I'm not going to read every single name on here for everyone. However, what I believe this slide really shows is this is an all-in operation. This is not just the city of Cleveland putting this on. We have partners from the county and the regional. We have partners from the state of Ohio. We have federal partners, as well as some of our private partners like First Energy, who will sit in the EOC, who will help make decisions and will help allocate resources. Currently, we have 40-plus agencies that will be represented 24/7 starting on July 15th in our EOC in order to have the most adequate and the most up-to-date information that our Unified Command can make decisions on. As you see here, this is an organizational chart based on NIMS ICS that was spoke about. Very quick overview. The purple section, we know that our people have to sleep. We know that our people have to be fed. We also know that there may be supplies that they need. This is something put in place so that we can efficiently track our resources, make sure our people get what they need, and remove any redundancies that may occur throughout the resource ordering process. The red is what you see and what you've heard about from our department directors and chiefs. A couple that were not spoke about today were our health and medical branch. This will be coordinated by Cleveland Department of Public Health in coordination with our hospital systems. Our transportation branch, which will be staffed by Greater Cleveland RTA. We will work with our partners with the Public Works City, as well as our utilities partners with water, power, and our private partners at First Energy. The blue or the planning section, that will be who deals with the sign-in sheet, so we have personal accountability throughout the city. This will be who puts together the incident action plans and situation reports. And the final, the green, is our finance section. As we spoke with on our NSSE grant, as well as timekeeping, this provides a national best practice of how we can manage incident resources, procurement, and purchases as we move throughout the incident. We also have, and we can go back real quick, the command staff at the top. You'll notice there are our agency administrators, which are Mayor Jackson and Director McGrath. We also have liaison officers, and what liaison officers are, one is Chief Valerie McCall, and the other is Director Blaine Griffin from the Mayor's office and from the Community Relations Board. These are our people who will be our main thoroughfare between Unified Command and both our residents and our businesses throughout the incident, because as previous presenters have mentioned, we want to make sure this is good and effective for everyone, not just the first responders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice. And again, I want to underscore that org chart and the importance of having Chief McCall and Director Griffin high up and in the middle of that organizational structure, because it really is important that we're not only focusing on what's going on in the event that's happening downtown. We want to make sure that all of our community partners, whether they're businesses in the downtown footprint or neighborhood stores out in the community, are engaged and understand that what's going on and are locked into the communication flow, because it really is important that they're on the same page with what's going on downtown. The next couple slides I'm just going to briefly go over for you. These are all different courses that each one of our personnel in the Department of Public Safety have participated in over the last 18 months. Some of these courses actually go back prior to that, and we've done update courses. The core curriculum, or the core amount of types of classes, the recommendations were made by the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the Federal Emergency Management Administration. They're the ones that we met with early on in this process after we were awarded this event and asked them what are the best practices in terms of training for all of our personnel, and what are the types of classes in the order that we should be providing them to our personnel. So Valerie, if you could just kind of scroll through slowly, you can see the Division of Police has got the NIMS training, which is the whole incident command structure and all of those processes. They've also done some crowd management courses. The first bullet obviously is very important to today's issues related to constitutional policing. Down at the bottom there, First Amendment, free speech. Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment. The Bureau of Justice Affairs controlled item standards. That comes out of a presidential executive declaration that was attached to the grant that we received. There are very specific requirements that all of our law enforcement partners, as well as our own Division of Police, must adhere to when we utilize specific pieces of equipment that we purchase for or from the grant. We're collaborating all of our policies and procedures related to controlled items with our local DOJ representatives, as well as those in Washington and the Bureau of Justice Affairs grants personnel, so that we make sure that we are being totally compliant with their expectations. As you see, we can continue to scroll on here. A lot of our personnel have become trainers, and our whole goal in this process was to become self-sustaining. So after this event, we're not going to need FEMA's trainers to come back into the city of Cleveland. Representatives from our Division of Police, Division of Fire, and Division of EMS were also certified trainers as part of this process, so that we can now become self-sustainable and do this training ongoing. Continue to go through, please, Valerie. You can see a lot of executive level training for not just our frontline people, but also our supervisors. This is all the EMS training related to the provision of patient care, the managing of mass casualties, actual treatment of patients. Continue, please. ALS, BLS, Commissioner Carlton used some acronyms related to advanced life support, basic life support. You can see these other trainings, PEP, GEMS, those are all actual types of patient care certifications. And then the Division of Fire, their primary focus is on hazmat recognition and remediation. So most of their training is focused in those areas as well as training and certification in the area of management of identification and mitigation. The last slide is just a short summary listing of the actual equipment and services that we procured as a result of the grant. I wanted to be able to give you just a small snapshot of what those commodities and equipment were. We heard conversations related to personal protective equipment. Obviously, we received personal protective equipment for the divisions of police, fire, and EMS. We purchased SUVs, pickups, you can see on the list here. And the reason that we needed to purchase these vehicles is that they were, the use of them required modifications to those vehicles. There's a whole host of other vehicles that we did not purchase. We just leased or rented because those vehicles and the utilization of them did not require us to modify. And again, that gets back into the executive order issued by President Obama in our compliance to the grant and the Bureau of Justice Affairs oversight. UTV patient transport vehicles, those are mini ambulances that the Division of EMS will utilize in close quarters in downtown areas to transport and move patients. You can see we are in the process of leasing fire engines and ladder trucks. We're purchasing chemical munitions, a service contract for housing out of state law enforcement personnel and to feed those individuals. And then a private ambulance, or actually two private ambulance company contracts that provide EMS extra capacity to transport personnel in the event that they need to be transported to local hospitals. That's it for our overall presentation at this point, and we will open it up for any questions that anybody might have.
Are you able to review what roads will be closed to downtowners during the detention?
We're not going to give you the exact closures, but I think it was said earlier, if you can stand someplace and see the queue and throw a baseball and hit it, you're within that secure perimeter. So you can probably, kind of gather from that the roads immediately around the queue in that area will more than likely be closed.
Chief, is the city going to be sitting down and meeting with any of these protest groups prior to the RNC to kind of get on the same page or make sure everybody's on the same page about what the procedures are going to be?
We're in the process of doing some of that already. We've reached out to groups. There have been a lot of groups that have actually reached out to us for parade permit requirements, locations, things like that. But if there's a group out there that wants to sit down and talk to us about things they want to do during the convention, we're definitely open to that.
In the back.
Chief, there have been reports of local police department from Cincinnati to Seattle. Apparently they were planning on sending officers, but they decided not to, citing what they perceive as a lack of preparedness. Would you respond to that? Will that impact at all your preparation?
Well, we've just given you our presentation on preparedness, so you can kind of gather from that what you will. But we started this process.
With that presentation, with these departments saying we're not going to send officers, apparently knowing this.
We started this process probably almost a year ago, and there have been hundreds of agencies that we've contacted in order to be a part of this process. Agencies have responded, some agencies haven't, agencies have been in, agencies have been out, but we are clear and prepared in our plan that we have enough officers to do this. We had agencies drop out, and just today we had other agencies commit to come in. So this is the process that goes with any large-scale event like this, with any convention, you know, for various reasons, people are in and out.
What's the number, Chief, of officers?
I can't give you an exact number. I can tell you it's in the thousands.
I have a question for either Ed Eckert or Brad. You guys talked a lot about redundancy for police radio systems and so forth. Well, my question is about our 911 system. It goes down frequently, went down again last night. So what about our 911 system and how can we rely on that?
Ed, I'll take that question. It has to do with our 911 call intake system, as far as 911 and also hardline calls. And there's been a few bumps in the road over the course of the last 3 weeks. That system is owned and managed by Cuyahoga County, and we have a meeting with them at 3 o'clock this afternoon to work through these issues we've been having over the course of the last 3 weeks.
Any idea why it's gotten to this point?
I don't want to be premature, but I will know when I go to that meeting at 3 o'clock today, because that's why I'm going there. Last night it went down, and as of this moment right now, it went down for approximately 20 minutes. Doesn't mean we switch over to CCOM, so somebody's taking our calls. But it did go down. I asked them, I was on the phone with them various times over the course of the evening, and they have not gave me a specific answer yet. But I do meet with the county representatives and also representatives from Emergency Call Works. That is the vendor that has been hired by the county to provide this service, and we will see them at 3 o'clock, and I will have some hard questions for those particular organizations.
Yes. Access to Terminal Tower and RTA during convention. Any limitations?
No. At this point, no. We're actually encouraging people to use. At this time, there are no limitations to Terminal Tower, and we're actually encouraging people to use public transportation during the event. You know, one of our partners from day one has been RTA. They were actually a very strong partner in helping us get the convention here, and so we're collaborating with them on all of their routes and all of the logistics that go with that. So no, we strongly encourage people to utilize public transportation.
I had a question for fire. Talk, Chief, some about extrication and is that people that might try to block road. Can you explain?
I'm sorry, repeat that question?
Talk some about extricating people and might have some sort of restraints or things like that. Is that civil disobedience, that sort of thing? Can you explain what you're talking about there?
Yeah, so if there's any disruption as far as the RNC, we got cut teams that will be in place that are going to be working unified command with the police division to mitigate that situation.
What's a cut team?
It's a group of individuals that are trained as far as how to mitigate and release the locking mechanisms of that particular situation, as far as these protesters locking themselves up together and disrupting either traffic or the event itself.
It was actually part of the training that FEMA provided us.
Thank you.
I have another question for Director McGrath. Actually, these problems with the 911 call system go all the way back to October, according to documents that we obtained from the city. Why haven't these issues been fixed?
We're here to talk about our planning and preparation for the convention. We're happy to address that offline. Are there any other questions related to the RNC?
I'm going to go to the RNC. Do you think the 911 system should work?
Sir, I have a question for the communications team. I've been at a number of big events, and usually when you have these enormously big events, this is a monster. There's always problems with cell phone frequencies and cell phone hemorrhages. Who handles that, and what do you have in place? And this has nothing to do with your team, but this is just for someone, a normal citizen. I've always had problems with my cell phones when there's big events like this.
During these events, these type of events, they do try to boost up their systems. Obviously with priority for us, I mean with wireless communications being a priority for us, but they do try to boost up their systems as best they can. They've been building towers and putting up more sites throughout the city of Cleveland to try and build up for it. But, you know, I mean, unfortunately, it's going to be an issue that could come up for these people, so.
Yes, Father?
Will the RNC have any effect on the homeless population of the area?
both with security for them or?
No, it won't. What, do you have anything, specific that you want? I mean, are you asking whether we're going to take people and tell them to move on? All those resources are going to be available. In fact, there's going to be enhanced resources. We've been meeting with quite a few of the nonprofits and some of the other organizations that service the homeless, people with mental health issues. And personally, I've attended a lot of those meetings. So I think you're probably going to see advanced or more resources than you normally would. So, but our job is not to displace anybody. Our job is to get you where you need to go. If you come to a road closure, we're gonna message that out. You may be asked for an identification. Business as usual in an unusual manner. There will be some delays, but that's our job. Our number one job is to keep pedestrian, traffic, and commerce moving in the city through this convention. And that's been one of our number one goals and missions from day one. So that's why we have all these resources. So I'm confident there's going to be services available for the homeless.
During a typical day, convention day, how many police officers will there be in the event zone, and how many of those will be Cleveland police, and how many will be out-of-town police, or percentages?
Well, as far as numbers, like the chief said, I won't give you exact numbers, but I can tell you that the Secret Service has responsibility for that hard zone, and what they do.
The total event zone.
Well, for the total event zone, yeah. At different times of the day, there'll be different numbers with staffing. Historically, the event does take place in prime time, so I would say, you could say with almost all certainty that you'll probably see a larger law enforcement present as the day moves on, as people move in and out of the city for traffic flow and everything. But as far as numbers and percentages, we're still working on that. That is not, we haven't determined that yet.
Yes. I was down in Canton last week where officers are training with TDT, and they didn't know if any more local officers would be recruited to come and help out. Are you planning on recruiting more departments with some others dropping out, maybe across Northeast Ohio or the state?
Well, yeah, we continue to take in officers from different states. There will come a time where we will stop, only because there's legal issues. We have to do memorandums of understandings. But everybody knows, I mean, this has been out there, particularly throughout the state. I've been briefing the county chiefs from Lorain, Cuyahoga, Lake, Geauga County for the last 6 or 8 months. I've been to numerous events. So if anyone wants to come in and help us, they send us their information and we do that. Throughout the county, we had cities that wanted to assist us, and then they came out with the list of where the hotels are. So a lot of those cities are not going to be helping us in Cleveland. They're going to be in their own municipalities, taking care of their own, their own cities out there. Just last week, we briefed all the county mayors and the police chiefs right here in this room. So we're pretty confident everybody's up to speed.
And then how important is it for the use of force to be executed in the proper manner with the DOJ oversight? How are you working with that? Is there a new process or protocol with the Secret Service involved?
Well, it's very important. And what our message is, what our training is, what our orders are for outside agencies, there will be no individual actions by any officer, be it Cleveland police officer or an officer from Wisconsin. All orders to arrest or take action will be done by a Cleveland police supervisor, and that will come up our chain. The officers are given, of course, leeway as far as anything that involves violence. If violence is being perpetrated on a person, then that police officer will take immediate action. But if we're talking about civil unrest, civil disturbance, things like that, that will come from our chain of command or our police commander or supervisor in the field to those squads that are out there under our control.
Chief, you've reiterated that you're prepared and that you continue to sign new partnerships, but some of these agencies that I've talked to have policed conventions in the past, and they're saying they don't have the information in Cleveland that they had in other cities.
I don't get your question about what information.
They're saying that at this point in the game, they had more information about their partnership when they policed conventions in the past. Your partners aren't getting that information.
Okay. Well, again, they're getting and I'll let Deputy Chief Tomba speak to this, but our partner agencies know where they'll be staying. They know what we require them to bring and what we're going to provide for them, and they know what their assignments are going to be as far as, are they crowd management, are they bike officers, are they field force officers, are they motorcycle officers? You know, when an officer comes to a city for a convention, they come at a certain capacity. A motorcycle officer knows what he's going to be doing. A bike officer knows what they're going to be doing. A crowd management officer, as far as field force training, they know what they're going to be doing during a convention. I think their major concerns are where they're going to sleep and what they're going to eat. And we have that covered also.
Yeah. Anything, first of all, you know, any specifics I'll be glad to address if you've got a city. Yeah, exactly who, I'll be glad to address. But I can tell you, I've been on conference calls, I've provided video briefings, and I'm just telling you what I've done. You know, I know my colleagues have done more. Conference calls, video briefings, site visits. We've got a group of law enforcement officers today in our city doing site visits. We had a group of law enforcement officers from Michigan last week doing site visits. Very natural. The last 2 inaugurations, we sent a contingent of 40 officers to Washington, D.C. in support of that NSSE event. We had the same concerns. You know, that's what, you know, we're police officers, we're human beings. We want to know certain things. Certain things we don't know, I can't tell them. But like the chief said, if we ask you for motorcycle cops and you send 10, that's what you're going to be doing. You're not going to be riding a horse. If you're a bicycle officer and that's your specialty, that's what you're going to do. If you have a canine, that's what you're going to do. So any specifics, I would be glad to address. But I have to tell you, you know, I've been out in the community and in the law enforcement community electronically, physically, and through videos. And I, you know, I'm very, very confident and satisfied with all the men and women of law enforcement that I've talked to, that they could make informed decisions as to whether to come to Cleveland or not. And that's up to them. And we respect that 100%.
And we will have the officers that we need on the streets.
Yes, absolutely. And my hope is that right, and you're talking about for the city. Yeah, we made a commitment. Chief Williams, his marching orders to me were the districts will be staffed at 100%. We built in a 15% additional staff for any type of sick call and anything. And then everybody else that's left over, I can use for the convention if I need for the convention. So we briefed City Council. We're going to continue to brief them. And that's what we said. My hope is that I do hear, hey, Chief, you know, I've never seen so many, you know, cops in the neighborhood. I've never seen so many cops walking around downtown. That's our goal, is to make it unassuming but very, very safe. So yeah, our first mission is services to the city of Cleveland. Our second mission is to secure this convention.
You said you had just heard today from a couple of other agencies that have agreed to come out on a partnership. Could you specifically list those for us? What departments that is?
I'm not going to give you a specific department, but one was from the state of Georgia.
Yes, sir. Question about the video unit. How long will the video be retained? Videos that are taken with the video unit, and will it be similar to the current body camera retention policy?
It will be under the current retention policy for the city, yes.
I wanted to ask, I interviewed the deputy chief of police in Greensboro, North Carolina, and they cited as one of their concerns the lack of workers' comp coverage for the officers that are going to be coming from out of town. Could somebody explain the decision to not cover that and also address whether it's been a concern or a challenge in recruiting people?
Hi, I'm Rick Horvath. I'm the Chief Corporate Counsel for the City of Cleveland. As many of you know, Ohio is a monopolistic state. We started this process by reaching out to the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp, trying to determine what the rules are that will be applicable to these officers. They made it clear that each of the officers need to retain their workers' comp from their home state. That is in our agreement. It was identified in the agreements, the draft agreements that we sent out to all of the states before they even contacted us. So if any state has any questions about that, they were informed of that, months ago when the agreements went out. It's very clear under the laws of Ohio that we cannot furnish workers' comp coverage to officers coming to this state. And it's clear in all of the agreements. A number of states have already signed our agreements and are very comfortable with that provision.
Has that been a challenge with some of the agencies, or has that been a concern that they've cited?
No. I mean, states make the decision based on the agreement. Some of them, based on the terms of agreement months ago, decided that they would not send officers. But as has been indicated here, we have more than enough officers who, from various agencies, committed to coming to Cleveland under the terms of the MOU.
And to be honest, we don't ask them. If they say no, we move on to the next one. We've got, we don't ask them why. That's their personal or political or workers' comp choice. We don't ask them, we just go to the next one and, move on.
This process and collaborating with officers from various states, is this a process to where you're soliciting? How are these officers how are they being invited to come here? Are you looking for the best of the best? What are the criteria that you're looking for when you're going out, or these officers just applying?
Well, we sent out letters of solicitation to various agencies across this country. And of course, in that solicitation, we want the best of the best. One of our main criteria is that they be trained, FEMA trained in field force activities. We will provide, Ed kind of went over a little bit of our criteria as far as Class B uniform, community policing oriented officers, that kind of thing. We will provide that with them. And the key to this whole thing is that all the officers that are coming in from outside agencies will be supervised by the Cleveland Division of Police. You won't have officers from state X out on their own, making their own decisions for the Cleveland Republican National Convention. Those officers will be supervised and managed by members of the Cleveland Division of Police. So if there's action to be taken, that will come from a Cleveland Police supervisor, not from those individual officers.
You mentioned Michigan, you mentioned Wisconsin. Do you have any officers that are coming from other parts of the country, California?
We have officers coming from all over this country, and I don't have an exhaustive list that I can go down and name state by state, but we've covered a lot of this country, yes.
Could you explain the difference between crowd control officers and the field force?
It's the same thing.
Okay, you used it, that's interchangeable.
Right. And there are different levels of crowd management officers, but it's basically crowd management is the same thing.
You have obviously probably a sizable SWAT contingent. Is that all Cleveland, or is that a combination with other?
Again, we're not going to get into specifics on units and assignments and things like that, but the entire gamut from mounted officers to bike patrol officers to tactical officers to intelligence officers to logistics. I mean, you name it. You saw the 23 subcommittees. Everything that can possibly be brought to this city for a safety law enforcement component will be here.
But is it a combination of Cleveland and other departments in those various areas?
And most, yes, but not all.
Chief, we've talked a lot today about potential protests, which police departments are coming and not, or whatever, but what does terrorism look like for this event? Because every large event that we've had, that's been a primary concern. I just wanted to get your sense as far as where you're looking at from a threat standpoint right now.
Well, that is under the purview of the FBI, but I can tell you that we're looking at everything that can or may or will happen during this convention, from a lost child to a catastrophic event. We're looking at all of them, and we're preparing for all of that.
And have you received anything that's specific or direct to this event so far?
Well, you know I couldn't tell you that, right? Even if I had, I couldn't tell you that. Sorry.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it.